One.
Smile.
Hello and welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour. Today is January 17th, 2020. And I am here today with some awesome people. Chuck Tomasi, our awesome super frequent guest. And back from last week, from down under still, Andrew.
Yep, that's me.
S-
Hi.
So let's go ahead and start with introductions. Andrew, you can start and we'll end with an Andrew.
Hi, my name's Andrew Albury-Dor. I'm the ServiceNow technical lead at Auto & General, which is a insurance company in Australia. I've been on the platform for about 4 years. I very, very recently got nominated as a ServiceNow developer MVP for 2020.
Ooh.
Within 24 hours, very cool.
Congratulations.
Thank you. It's been a whirlwind and I haven't slept a lot, but not specifically because of that, but partly because of that.
Two small children doesn't help.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, and in my private time, it's pretty much the two small children and that's it. Watching Monsters, Inc. over and over and over and over and over.
Fair enough. Chuck?
Hi, I'm Chuck Tomasi from ServiceNow Senior TPMM. I do lots of stuff regarding supporting events and analysts and releases, which reminds me Orlando is coming out soon, early access.
Yes.
Later this month. So stay tuned for that. Been furiously building lots of demos to show things and just a lot of great stuff coming out. Personally, I end up doing a lot of ServiceNow stuff just for fun.
Because we like this stuff.
We are in the early planning stages of an event. I will keep you posted. Acknowledge that will be, if it happens, it's going to be a blast. We will definitely be telling you about it. I've been working for,
and I don't even know what this is.
6 months on an app that I would love to showcase. And you remember Jeopardy last year, right?
I do know
I wasn't
what
there
this
last
is.
year,
All right.
unfortunately.
Sweet. I hope it does happen.
Better than Jeopardy. I'm going to leave it at that. At least I think so.
Chuck does have a Dalek in the background.
I do.
Yes.
I just found out that our 4th edition of Podcasting for Dummies is greenlit. So we will be doing that. That'll be released later this year. That's the poster you see behind me was for the 3rd edition, which came out. Oh, we were doing this about 3 years ago. So Wiley tells us it's one of the better resurrection stories that they've ever had because it was 9 years before the 2nd edition. So anyway, I'm off track. Let's do some more developer-y stuff.
Thank you, Chuck. I'm Andrew Barnes, developer advocate at ServiceNow. And I am not feeling great today. So these guys are going to carry most of the load today. I have been doing ServiceNow development for a little over 5 years. Been at ServiceNow for a little over a year. I am down a teammate very soon. Hopefully we'll have another teammate here with me, another developer advocate. And I focus on integrations, managing update sets, development best practices, and custom app development are, wide ranging different things. And super excited to be here with you folks today. Let us introduce our beverages of choice, the libations. Same order.
Yep. So this morning I went and found something interesting. It's a nitro cold brew iced coffee latte by Minor Figures Coffee. I haven't had this one before, but the can looks pretty cool. It's got a chick skateboarding on it. I don't know. Let's crack it and we'll find out.
Sweet. And you, Chuck?
I have locally brewed Kilt Lifter Scottish Amber Ale. This is kind of a staple in our fridge. So when it shows up, it usually shows up in cases, and I'm sick of it by the time. So it takes a long time to get back onto Kilt Lifter for me.
Kilt Lifter. That's a great name. And today I've got a local brew here in North Carolina, Endless River, which is this one is a Kolsch style ale. All right. So what we're doing on the show. So this is live coding. So what we do is we no practicing, no rehearsing, no scripting here. We develop live just as every other developer does out there in the wild. Chuck will be driving us today. we use, just like everyone else does, we use personal developer instances sometimes, which we've gotten from developer.servicenow.com. As Chuck alluded to, currently we're on the New York release, and very soon we'll be on the Orlando release, and we'll have a whole palooza of things to share about Orlando very soon in the future. Probably our next show, we might be able to show some things. We'll
It's
see.
exciting.
And that's great. Coming up is Knowledge 20 in Orlando, and our feature release will be Orlando in Orlando.
How meta.
The fun is so good. So looking forward to seeing folks there. The last update thing is, as Andrew said yesterday on the developer blog, developer.servicenow.com, I announced our developer MVPs for 2020. So 14 individuals have been identified as leaders in our community space. And Andrew is one of those. Chuck would be one of those, except that employees are excluded.
Employees don't count.
And so it's a really fantastic collection of folks. I was on the phone with them yesterday, which is why Andrew is so tired, because it's a truly global group spanning all the way around. We've got Australia, India, a couple in Europe, several in the Americas. So we're all the way around time zone wise, and it's really hard to get us all on the phone at a time that's not terrible for someone.
Is this?
I drew the short straw.
Andrew, is this annual program, or what's the?
This is an annual program, so
Okay.
It is now a subset of the Now Community MVP program, or rather, you can see ServiceNow MVP, and there's the Now Community, and then the developer sections of that.
You get a badge for your creator profile or something, or
there is badging and all sorts of things that we're going to be revealing slowly over time.
Okay.
And I won't share all of those details right now. We have them all, but we're gonna ease them out
so it was a sneak
as
announcement.
they're delivered. So welcome, Andrew. Chuck, why don't you tell us what we're going to be working on today?
Definitely. In fact, I'm going to start with a screen share just because I took pictures at one point in my life of what we're doing here. So share and make sure I share the right screen. I almost said leave meeting. The share button is really close to the exit button. And so this is a picture of AWS Reinvent. Forgot to turn off my camera. I think I also want to do that. So where's my stop video? There. So the at AWS Reinvent in December, we had an in-booth trivia game. People could walk up, iPad, laptop. There were like 3 or 4 of these devices where you could walk up, first name, last name, email, phone number, hit the play button, and away you go. And it gave you 2 minutes to answer as many trivia questions as you could. And they were platform, they were security, they were historical, they were all over the map in terms of questions. And depending on how many you answered correctly in that 2 minutes, you get a position on the leaderboard. And every day we would give away a set of AirPods. I think this was like 3 or 4 days running. So there's another angle at the same picture. There were some issues with this. This is a third-party app. This is not something on platform. And Jason McKee and I said, we can do better. We can do better. And the marketing team said, please do. That's all the motivation we needed. So at our December Phoenix developer meetup, we fleshed out the data model and we whiteboarded it and had an open discussion. And then somebody who really wasn't familiar with Studio went in and built out the table structure. So that's what I've got now. The rest, you've seen where we want to end up, and I'll show you where we are now with the tables. It's a pretty simple data model. We've got a person table. We didn't use sysuser, or you'd have to do some registration. We didn't want to stay away from that. It was like, let's make this completely an open-ended thing. The walk-up experience, no friction, that kind of thing. And we got a person table. We've got a game table, so we can have different games. Maybe there's one for Tuesday, a different one for Wednesday, a different one for Thursday. Maybe it's just a way to segregate these and relate the questions to them. So we've got some many-to-many tables in there as well. We've got which questions go with this game. We've got a category. The category has questions under it, and I'll show you that as I roam around the forums. So here's our people record. I entered some sample data real quick this afternoon and did some real rough form cleanup because, when you create a table, sometimes the fields don't get exactly where you want.
No, that never happens, Chuck.
So yeah, obviously there was a many-to-many table to say Andrew has played, game 1, 2, 3, and 7, and Chuck has played game 4 and 5. We could just have it was a thought process about going through the many-to-manys. We've got categories. I have only populated a few in history. History needs a related list, so let's quickly put that on there to put game and question because those are related. And now I can see there are 3 questions in here, like who founded ServiceNow. Each game says whether or not you want to randomize the questions and or the answers. So if somebody walks up, they don't know what question 1 is going to be every time. That none of this logic is built, but we knew what features we wanted based on other experiences. I wrote an exam application that almost had a very similar data model to this. And then games answers. The way that I did the questions and answers was also based on a previous experience by putting an embedded list in here. It's far, far faster to create answers to a question with an embedded list rather than a related list. So that's my one takeaway from historical reference as well. That way, if you say their order 1, 2, 3, 4, or 100 through 400, they will show up in that order. But if the game says randomize them, it shuffles them all around. But that gets into, hey, make me an object in memory, shuffle that object, now present the object in the portal. We'll get to that eventually. So my question for you, gentlemen, is where would you like to start with the experience part of it? Should we start with the user registration page and go through Service Portal 101 fundamentals and build a widget and page? Or do you have other ideas?
Always a fan of Service Portal.
As am I.
Let's start from the start.
Start from the start. Well, we already started. That part's done. Oh, here's another trick that I learned about this time last year. Well, somebody wrote a lab guide for me. See how I've got like 5 or 6 tabs open in Studio, and the normal human being would go close tab, close tab, close tab. I learned that if you just do a browser refresh, they all go away. It was so simple. I went, wow, Control R, Command R, F5, or whatever you want. It's like done. So
it sounds like something that's a blessing and a curse.
Yeah, it could be. Kind of like, close window. And like, no, I only want to close the tab.
Yeah.
Done that too many times to count. Okay, so let's go to Service Portal configuration. And slow browser, take a drink. We'll start with our widget editor and create a new widget. And let's call this a trivia registration, trivia sign up. Anybody have a particular? This is the hardest part of our jobs, is making
naming things. Yeah.
Naming things is always a pain. It's true.
Create a test page of the same name because we will be page testing this in a moment. And ta-da, let's turn on the server script and the HTML template. Andrew, do you say HTML or HTML? I can't remember in Australia.
HTML.
Okay. I'm just keeping my context awareness on.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I know that I've been back because I've got the best accent. So let's have him on all the time.
Let's create some HTML fields. We'll need a text field, name, first name, right? We're going to make this, I'm not going to spend a lot of time stylizing because that's 80% of the effort, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Size,
CSS or can't stop screaming.
40. All right. We'll do another one for last name. Copy. Paste. We need a phone number and an email address. So I am
pretty bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
Sign up.
Last name. Oops. Last name. So when it's really handy to learn to type not looking at your fingers. Email and phone. This is okay. No surprises yet. I haven't rigged up any Angular or anything yet, but just for fun's sake, let's go to /spid equals trivia sign up. It's not going to be that impressive, people. Look, there's not even any labels on these fields.
It's the greatest widget ever.
It's the worst widget. That's user hostile. That's not even user friendly. Okay.
You better know what to type in these boxes.
There's just 4 fields. You don't know what they are.
So I am not the most div savvy person. I tend to revert to tables when divs get a little out of control for me. Someday I'm going to learn proper div technology, but until then I'm just a backwards person.
I was reading about CSS grid structure now, so you don't have to use Bootstrap. It's really cool.
Oh, well, that would be nice.
Yeah.
Where did you read that?
The internet.
The internet.
Wow.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
That was the best developer answer ever.
I had a woman come up to me in DC. I was at the welcome desk, and she recognized me from doing the YouTube videos and what. She goes, "You're that guy from the internet."
From the internet. We're here from the internet, and we're here to make your ServiceNow instance better.
Couldn't have been better. All right, so let's do. We need a label in here. So first name. We could. What's the format? Is it first name to do the translation stuff in place? Language proof ourselves later.
It kind of looks right.
It looks more like an email variable to me, but okay.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm thinking of.
I know they're close.
They're close, but I don't remember the syntax. I always have.
We're going to find out now, aren't we?
I just look every time. I don't even try and store that kind of thing.
If it's wrong, we'll take the curly braces out and move on. Okay, so easy. I like to do the HTML first, just to make sure that layout and whatnot are looking pretty good. Now, the reason I'm not using preview, okay, that's, ugly enough to get by. The reason I'm not using
developer
preview
clearly made that.
Because we don't have a web designer involved yet. Now, I could do, preview and enable preview and turn it on and turn on the preview window. But I find that I start losing real estate too fast. And there's some cases where I really, really like, especially when you get into the scripting, the client scripting part, I like to ensure, we can probably put the pictures away, that I have the console on, the developer console, to see any errors that are whizzing past.
I tend to do a similar setup. Is I want the widget or page, or whatever context it is, loaded normally, not in any sort of preview thing, because I want all my normal tools available to me.
I'm
pretty lucky at work. They've given me 4K monitors, 27 inches.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, I can usually have the preview window as well for the design part of it, and then I jump over to a actual page when I'm logging like the data state to console and have a look at where I am. What was that? Sorry.
I said I also just avoid Service Portal when I can.
No, I love Service Portal.
Wow, Andrew, you're harsh. I love Service Portal. It takes me back to my, to the hacking roots. It's more of a high control thing. It really is, than a high productivity.
Oh, for me, I just don't like to design things that aren't nice, but I'm not a designer, so I can't design things that are nice. So, once someone's designed a thing that they like and they want me to make it,
sure,
run well, or, have lots of automation behind it and drive it and give it data and take data from it and do awesome things, I'm all on board. But the actual crafting of a page is not where you want me to spend time.
I agree, but I often find that I don't have a choice, because I am there making that page, and people want a page, but they don't tell me what it wants to look like. So I find finding something that looks kind of like what you're after and then copying it rather than building it from scratch.
Okay, so
All
let's
right.
discuss what I did.
Getting a click. So you added
I added a button and I put in a class so it looks pretty. I know just enough CSS, especially the bootstrap CSS, to be dangerous. And then ngClick is going to be our function, our client side function we want to call to submit this record and play. Now, I'm not going to do anything right now about scrubbing to say, is there already an email address for this player or whatever. We're just going to create a record and move on. Let's get the bare bones working. So that means I need my client script up here. We won't do
and you need a function that you know, actually executes that.
So step one is don't ever forget this. You need to put stuff up here that you're going to use. How many? It seems like every time I do a timeout or a scope, my first function, it goes, I don't know what that is. It's such a simple thing to forget. So that allows us to do submit and play equals. This is a bit of a different syntax than you've seen like in script includes, but it's there. I don't pass it any parameters. I probably should, but it needs to know where these are coming from. Now, right now, these are HTML variables. I don't think I've got this set up right in terms of binding these together. So what I often do is, and this may or may not be the right way, but it works for me kind of thing, is there's this built-in data object. And I can create these variables either as data.something or data.object. And let's do that. Data.person equals, and then we can put in a first name,
last name, email, and phone. Yeah.
Yep. Set it to blank. That way it's initialized. And I will use those as my variables in the HTML as Angular variables.
That seems reasonable. And I'm not expert enough to know a better way without, spending time on it. So
we'll initialize this object. Then we can go back here and say name equals first name, but value we can say is, actually we don't need,
I think an input.
We need to.
You can just call the value of the name, maybe.
It's is it ng model or ng bind?
Ng bind.
Ng bind. So we can say.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay. Does that take care of the name as well?
I feel like it.
Yeah. Right. That's where I am too. It's data dot person dot first name. Let's try this and see what happens. This is where we're
give it a whirl.
Off script. We'll just do one now. There's another thing I like to do is if you don't really want to use a label, you can always use a placeholder. Enter first name. That's that text that appears and then goes away as soon as you start typing. Now what we can do here is C represents the current object of stuff. And just for fun, let's do a console.log first name equals, just making sure we get a form that can communicate. C.data.person.first name. Okay. It's not terribly exciting yet, but we're going to find out if we're just making sure it works.
Console logs are always exciting.
And there's our placeholder, which is nice. And then when you put your cursor in there and start typing Fred, Bloody, then none of these are mandatory. We'll do that later. And I click play. First name equals nothing. Nothing.
If you shift right click on the widget and log console.data to
shift right click on the widget.
Or control right click, sorry.
Control maybe. There.
Yeah, and then log scope.data to console.
Hey,
Well,
this is new information for me. I'm happy to hear.
oh,
it.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's...
Is it a time saver for you?
Oh, it's amazing. If
Instead
you
of doing a
load data,
JSON.stringify kind of thing?
it just logs the data object to console as an object. It's amazing.
Didn't get anything.
No, that was interesting. Can you try again?
Log console scope.
There we go.
Widget scope.
And so if you
okay. So if I
drop that
blow this
down,
out, I know it's going to be hard to see on TV.
yeah.
Maybe
So that's the object that you set up in your server.
there's
script.
Thank you for making that bigger, Chuck.
Still empty. I had to make it bigger for me.
I couldn't see it, so
yeah, and I didn't know if that would really ruin anything else. So good. Make it even bigger. It's still empty.
Mm. So we haven't actually passed anything.
No, we're not using this right. You know, it's crazy because I've done this, but I'm too proud to go look at an example that I've already got.
Maybe I can do that in the background for you.
I'm not proud. I'll go look at one.
Any comments from the peanut gallery? Nothing on YouTube
No,
that I see.
no comments from the peanut gallery. So,
all right, we're calling the function. It's just we're not passing the data around. That's the tricky part.
Is it ng bind c
model?
It could be c dot. I've used it both ways, to be honest.
So someone from the peanut gallery says ng model.
ng model. Okay. Save. Page. Refresh. Always refresh, kids. I can't tell you how many times I've done that. I'm like, where's my new code? And do I have to do the control thing every time? Okay, it should be empty right now because we haven't done anything to it. So let's do Fred, Luddy, enter, go. And first name equals Fred.
That's worked.
That's good.
And then do we expect that to have passed the variables back into the server object at this point?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So because if
it's all once if I know that the client script is manipulating c.data.person, then I know that this will also, but it's not updated. This is run once when you start.
Yeah.
If you do a c.server.update. So that's where we get into this philosophical, what's the right thing to do here discussion.
So I think normally you set a variable as input is true, and then check inside the server script. If input is true, then
somebody wants an update. I would.
Yeah, that's right.
In this case, I would prefer to create the record from the form submission from the server script. The challenge is going to be, we want to go from this page to another page. The server script isn't going to be able to tell you that. The client script has to do that. So I don't know if you can do both.
Could we, in the server script, update a variable?
Yeah, so we can do that.
Here's what we can do. I did discover recently that there is a let's do c.server.update. That will call our updater, but it also has a promise on it. That I don't use all that often, but this might be a good place to do it, to say, if it was successful, then go redirect.
Yeah. You have to call the function inside the brackets of then?
Yes, and I can't remember the syntax for this part.
It's function open and then
like that.
I think that's
so
right.
I got a big holy mess here going on. I don't know.
Syntactically, that looks delicious.
No, it doesn't. You've been drinking, so that's got to be the end of my.
Yeah, you got one too many curly braces at the end.
Yes, that's what it's barking about. Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So then my redirect would really go in here. Redirect, which is $location dot something. That one I will have to look up. But for now, we'll just keep trucking along. Okay. So if input is in fact set and logical, it means we called from client script c.server.update. Okay.
Mhm.
Now we can actually do our glide record stuff to put this away, or look up and
Yep.
say, hey, does this email address already exist? So who was with us a couple of weeks ago when they were saying I like to just write out my comments first? It gives me a flow. That was
That was
not Jason.
Anders.
Anders, that's who it was.
Anders.
Yes.
That almost makes too much sense for a developer.
Okay. Well, it
Yeah,
also
I mean, I like writing my comments first.
check
which is-
if user already exists, figure out what they want to do, create record. Then we can write this in pieces. We don't have to write it all today.
Mm.
So when I'm doing test-driven development, I'll do my comments, then my tests, then my code. So like the code is almost the last thing.
I tend to do this on script includes too. I'll write the function and say, well, do I need 2 parameters or 7 parameters or 1 object or no parameter? It kind of gets me in that thought of what's it going to look like before I write it, and the exceptions and use cases of how I'm going to use it. Not always right, of course. You know, you come back later with a new requirement and go, oh, I have to pass a Boolean. So let's do our person gr equals new glide record. Okay, I'm going to show you one of my latest and greatest favorite tools. I think I've showed before.
Ooh,
this
I
is
love
a
latest and greatest tools.
A constants script include, where I can keep all these table names and the app knows everything. So I call this constants. And down here below all this stuff, I can say constants dot person table, for example, equals whatever that person table was called. And then throughout my application, I can just call constants.person table.
Ooh, that's
So this is
a
like
really cool name.
scopes
Cool.
global variable from your
It
script
is.
include
It's effectively a global variable
for your scope.
For your scope. You could address it outside of your scope, obviously, by saying,
Right,
well,
but
make it available to everyone, and then they have to address it by scope. So
yeah,
I don't
that
have
becomes way less global at that point. but yes.
Yeah. But I like it from the fact that now the script include, or the script include can see these, the UI actions can see them. And if by chance I ever move this to another instance and it gets a different scope, or I have to rebrand it, or somebody says, you can't use trivia, you have to call it something else. It's a simple exercise of good. There, it's renamed. So it makes the maintenance. I know that not everybody does that, but I've had a few apps in my day that just needed rebranding, renaming.
Makes sense.
Maintenance does catch up to you eventually if you stick around long enough.
It does. So now, if you live long enough, constants dot person table. Now,
do you have to call the new instance of that?
Nope, because it's outside of the prototype.
Oh, that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Now, I could just get rid of all that prototype stuff if I want, but something in my back of my brain says, it just feels like a script include at this point. Person gr dot new record, person gr dot, I'm going to go set value. I'm not going to do a dotted notation. And are the fields actually called first name, last name, or is it first, last, something?
You know, I'm a stickler. I go look every time.
First name, last name, email, phone. I am a simpleton as well. Okay.
Was that just the label, or was it the actual name in that?
I can tell from the label what the name is because I.
Oh, okay.
These are the labels.
On the widget screen, can you collapse one of the other things just for screen readability?
Oh, man. Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, so it's input, not inputs, right? Do I need to
C dot data dot or data dot input
not server script? I think it's just input dot first name. We're going to find out.
There's something along those lines.
Person gr dot set value, last name.
I thought it was C.
No, I think you're right. Input.
Oh, on the server side, it's just input. Yes.
Yeah.
I'm looking now. Yeah, it's just
phone.
input.
Input dot phone. Person gr Set value.
Mm.
I'm becoming more of a stickler on using my getters and setters. They just dot notation bites me too often.
It'll get you.
Email, input, email, and person gr dot insert. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's the difference between
or just
dot new record and dot initialize?
Whether or not you get defaults.
Difference between
Right.
initialize and new record, the key difference is new record sets default values. I don't have any here, but should I put in? Actually, I do. No, not on this one. But if you had like an active equals true, initialize won't set active equals true as your default. It'll just
That
say,
sounds
yep,
like
you got an
something
active
I
field.
am glad I know now.
I think there's a blog entry in the community that describes that. I don't remember who wrote it, but it's been there a while. Okay, you ready to try it?
I'm ready. I love pressing buttons once I know what I expect.
Oh, we didn't finish binding up all the other variables. We sort of cheated our way through.
We did. We just have first name, right? Yeah.
I don't even know if we bound that.
We did.
We did an NG model on that. That's how we got it to work.
Oh, yep.
Okay, so I think the placeholder is a bit redundant. We don't need a placeholder on this, but that was fun. Oops. Okay, so we need NG model in all of these to make them work. That's it, right?
I think that will get us way closer than we are now.
This will be last. This will be email. And this will be, I am doing absolutely no error checking here.
You could definitely set the input type of email to email. That'd give you some basic input.
That would be better. I like it.
All right. Now reload.
Test and go. First name, Fred. Second name, Luddy.
Liddy.
Email, fred.luddy at example.com. Look at that. Phone.
I wonder how many emails example.com gets.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Somebody's got to own the domain.
Okay, first name. That's okay. This is just our, hey, we're making a scope privilege for you.
Yep.
And
which is normal in your development instance.
You'll hit that once. Property. And under our people table, we have an undefined. Wow, that worked great.
Maybe we need to check if input actually contains something before we go and make that object.
Yeah. Didn't we do that already, though?
No, we just have if input.
Okay. So what happened to it? I mean, the client script had data. This is why you like it. This is why I like REST APIs better.
Do we have to initiate the data.person object in the client script before we can bind to it?
No, it's known by C. See, it's known by this because we already did the console.log here to get the first name.
That's true.
So we're passing that in. So what happened here? Do we have any log messages that might lead us in the right direction? Not really.
All right. Let's see.
Okay, so nothing there. What do you think? A couple of GS log statements? I mean, GS info?
It's a good place to start.
This is where it's live, kids.
It is definitely live.
Okay.
Especially how rusty I'm getting in Service Portal.
GS info. Debug. Nice big debug message. Input equals. Hopefully it's something we can run through Stringify. JSON. That's Stringify. Input null 4. Do a little formatting for me. And meanwhile, over on our form, we have.
Do we want to comment out the new record so we don't get another one?
I'm fine. The other one says
Okay.
undefined. Doesn't matter to me.
Um,
Just some stuff in here. And
in
play.
in the quick example I was looking at, we had to assign the
Whoa.
c.field name to
Oh.
c.data.field name.
All right. Does anybody spot it yet?
I haven't. I was looking off screen.
Person, input.person. Yeah.
Like, there's data in the object. Oh, we forgot to use the object. Yes, you can fool yourself. Oops. Dang, I copied the wrong part of this thing.
YouTube's caught up finally, and they're bashing us in the 30 seconds in the past.
shouting at their screen. You forgot the person object, numbskull.
See, yes. I've been there. I've been on the viewing end and thought, no, you've missed something. But when you're here, when you're doing it, when you've got a beer in your hand or a nice coffee, in my case,
we're very appreciative. Jay says,
now let's see if they notice that we noticed.
Very appreciative of everybody making their comments. Okay, let's get rid of these two records. Clean up our mistakes. Delete. Reload the page of awesome formatting.
Thank you, Naveen and Jace and Janos. I can't say your first name.
There, you get some points. World's simplest page, and we still can't get it right. Okay, so it's cleared it out. At this point, we would have redirected, and we have a record.
Hey.
Awesome.
Fancy.
Okay, notice also that I do have a calculated field called name that doesn't appear on the form, but it does appear in the list. Just for, hey, I'm going to need a display value later, and I don't feel like concatenating these things every single time. All righty.
Which is also how the user record does it, the sysuser table calculated field.
Okay, so we are done with a very, very simple registration page. We could continue to blow this out and say, wait, someone with that email address already exists. I'll use that instead. We could move on to a representation of I think getting into another widget and page might be a little more involved at this point, especially if we're rendering questions and whatnot. So thoughts on keep going, building this, maybe do some existing user detection?
Do you care at any point if they do exist?
If I was at a trade show and I walked up and I had 15, I guess if you were going to use it for a contact list and you wanted to reach out to these people, but I guess it really doesn't. This doesn't have to be clean data. You could have 5
maybe say if it detects the same email, put on the score window that they've tried again. Like say this person's third attempt, they got this. This score.
You know what? You're right, because in the game record, we did have a choice list of say, are you allowed to try it multiple attempts or not? We made that a choice list because we didn't know if we'd have a third option in there, and we didn't want just 2 Booleans or something.
It's very limiting when you make something a bool.
Yeah, you get 2 options. And we said we may not have 2 options here. Okay, so let's do that. Let's this is where I feel like some of this code is going to bloat my server script. So what I would prefer to do is let's start
your script include.
Let's start a script include and create server script include. And I've gotten into a habit recently, especially on these applications that feel like they're going to be a little larger later, is to name the
utils
includes after. Well, utils tends to be one script include to rule them all
for the whole scope. But yeah,
but I'm finding that functionally they tend to revolve around the tables themselves.
And so this one will be, user or person, whatever you called your user table, which is person.
And then we can have create person, insert person, add person?
So
What-
first the first one is going to be lookup person, and the stuff you copied is going to be create person.
Okay. And what are we asking for? We're passing in an email address to say, have I
Yeah,
seen
the
this
email
person before?
address is our unique identifier,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, pretty much globally it is.
And then from that, we'll call what you've copied, which is the create new person.
I like that. I always struggle with inconsistency even in my own apps where I have like create table, create user, add person. Like what? I really got to make a style guide of my own someday. And this will be, we'll just call it, that's going to be our input object, right?
Okay.
Don't forget your commas. Okay, so let's do this. Oh, this is where the VS Code extension would come in really nice. I don't have it installed on this machine yet.
Shame on you. Let's
I know.
fix that before you're allowed to drive again.
Ooh, I've been threatened. All right, so lookup person.
The new VS Code extension is pretty great, and it's getting better. So
Person
I've seen the next version.
New glide record. Constants dot person table. The other thing that I've done,
the one thing for sake here is perhaps you want to just do input object into your lookup person function, and then you can just pass that along to your create person if you do need to create a new one.
Oh, you're thinking about chaining these together. I was thinking about calling them.
Yeah, so lookup person.
Okay.
Oh, well, no. Yeah, so no, you should move the logic to your script call for it. So never mind. I rescind my own thought.
No, there's times when that's handy rather than, again, keeping the bloat in the server code of the widget down.
Yeah, in that case, I would be, lookup.
Yeah, it's like
or create versus just lookup.
Yeah.
This implies though it has to know the structure of the input object, which I guess this already does. Okay.
Yeah, since we're not going to pass it, I think you should just go back to email.
Okay. Done.
Because then, like you said, it would need to know the structure, and that may not be the case and generic enough for all your use cases that you might want to use lookup person.
Right.
You can use this in other places.
Create person is going to do that as well. Although, what if we change this from input object to person object?
Ooh.
We could just pass in input.person to this and go, you know what, if I got to call it from somewhere else, just make sure it has these 4 properties and we're good.
That seems reasonable.
Okay, so if we can get a person record by email address, then return true, return person gr. I often find it handier to return what I found because it's like often more times than not I go, hey, does this person exist? Yes, then go get their records. Like, no, just you already got
give me the record
once.
You've looked it up, give it to me.
Right.
Yeah, passing glide records around is awesome.
It certainly cuts down on the database operations and the number of variables you got to pass into a thing. So if I need to create it, then good thing that's still in the copy paste buffer.
Not that we haven't, been
so
glide record format before.
This becomes person obj.
OBJ, yeah.
And I can transplant that into...
Again, another nice thing for easy to do in VS Code would be.
Yes, I know.
Bam,
bam.
Although I don't know enough about VS Code, I'd probably be still doing the same copy paste operation.
That's okay.
And
you still have
nice
that extra I on 23.
We could pass back the ID, or we could pass back person gr. On 23, I actually have.
Yes,
yes, I do have an I. Those subtle dark blue to black colors. Not really a help. Needs to be like orange. This is a variable you've declared and used.
When
Okay.
are we going to get a theme plugin for the code modifier in
You want dark
ServiceNow?
mode?
Yes.
Every developer wants dark mode.
VS
Okay.
Code is dark mode all the time.
By default, you can change it. It's got themes.
Yeah, it's got themes, but I like the dark mode. It's nice.
Except when I was doing the demo for VS Code, because you pull up the store and it's dark too when you go to look up the extension.
Oh.
And it looks like it's just throwing something on the screen. It's very, but if you had
that probably doesn't make a very good screenshot.
It doesn't. But because the store is always dark, I made the editor light so it had some contrast. All right, we're off topic.
Yeah.
Okay, back to our widget that we were cleaning up. We want to say if let's instantiate a new thing. Or what do you call a script include variables? Again, we got to name things.
Person.
You don't just call them X. That tends to be what I do.
There, new person. If person dot lookup, we did call it lookup person, right? I can't remember. Lookup person. Yep. Thank you.
Well, that's news to me, Poke, that platform editor has theme support. Huh.
Do what now?
Poke says the platform editor does have theme support out of box. It's just not exposed.
Okay.
Sounds like we need a update set to expose it.
I feel like I'm going to go figure that out after this.
Yeah.
Create new user input.person. Is that it?
Create new user input.
Wait a minute. This is going to return a person GR. So I do want to get that because I may need that. Do I need that later? I guess I don't at this point. I just want to know if the lookup was successful or not.
Yeah, and if not, create a
that
user.
Doesn't do the client script any good though. Because the client script is going to redirect and it needs to know who's playing.
So we should return.
We've got an architectural design issue to discuss.
We should return the sys of the record, whether it's a found one or a created one, back to the client script.
Which would come out in this end section?
So
how do you return something from here? You just return?
You just set the data dot like return value or whatever. And then because you've done the server update, that's updated the data object, which is then accessible in your promise.
Oh, we are going to need this person GR then, aren't we?
Yeah.
We're going to need this person GR. Okay, so there goes new. No. Person dot. Heck with this. Copy and paste it, Charles. I'm not typing all that again. Are we lazy or efficient? I can never remember what the proper term is.
Yes.
It almost makes me think maybe you were right, Andrew, that we should have chained them and we should have just have a get person, and that returns either the new created record or the found record.
Yeah. Anyway, so just set PGR there.
No, because this is returning the ID. This is already returning the sys. So what I need is something like var happened. I have a function out here. That ain't good. I'm passing that. What? Okay. Like, you know when something's really off when your indentation goes nuts. PGR.getUniqueValue.
Why not just use PGR?
Because, well, tell me when I'm done here. And then we are going to set this here. PGR is a glide record object. What do you want me to do with it?
Oh, I was saying your inside your if loop, if you didn't have anything set for PGR, then just set PGR there. And then at the end, input.person.id is equal to PGR. That get unique value.
Because I don't believe you can just throw a glide record at this object. It's
PGR.get unique value.
Right. Okay. So I would need this script.
Which it's fine the way you did it. I just wouldn't have used a new object.
Oh, I see. Okay. I think it probably would have been easier to chain them together, like Andrew said. But I'm using this as a flag to say, no, you didn't look up the record properly. Right. Therefore, you're going to have to set.
We'll create a new one
from this function, which all it does is return IDs. And then theoretically, I should have user person ID equals input.person ID.
It'll be
c.data.person
ID.
No, because it's not in.
Oh no,
at that point. I can differentiate. Because it's going to get reset automatically here. So when it's done, it's. Well, I guess
we probably. Oh, do we want that there? Do we want to put the data.person
or do you want it else?
Top?
We could do it first.
If we put that first, it instantiates the object, and then if there's an input, it rewrites that object.
Okay, so that's probably a better idea.
And
so
we don't want to set input there, do we?
No, we want to set data. Sorry,
data. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There, but we still need to set all the other ones because they're not picked up yet. They're not overwritten. Can I just say input equals data? Or that would screw things up, wouldn't it?
Maybe just set it as data.output rather than using the person object.
How about that? Can I copy the whole object at once?
Maybe. It's worth a shot. Let's see what happens.
Yeah. Let's try it out.
Maybe. We are all over the place today.
We are all over the place today.
So let's just
see.
Oh, yes, you're right. Thank you. Always do that. All for everybody happy with the parentheses? Okay.
Poke's yelling at us for some reason.
I have no faith that this is going to be awesome.
Wow. Okay. So let's put in Fred Luddy again. We don't even need to spell his first name and last name right. We're going to see if our lookup, we added a lot of code, so I wouldn't be surprised if it fails miserably.
Many changes all at once.
jstar.stingify. Well, if you're a police fan, that works great. I know exactly which one it was, too. Free, set them free. Okay, you know what? We really don't even need anything else except this. Ooh, we didn't get much out of data. We got email, which is already because we didn't pass anything. Okay, no, this is working.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Is it working?
What we expected. That looks like our user sys-ID, and if it is, then victory.
There's only 3. There's not an additional one.
It could be the completely wrong table. I don't know.
Fred,
take a drink.
Nice. Well, and that also
got some
takes
basic functionality.
So let's do a little summary of what you got there. So we started with a table, and we needed an input form. So we built that.
Kind of built it.
Functional. Very simple. Beautiful.
This is pretty straightforward. It's 4 fields. Then we're sending that to a server-side script, which is calling a server-side script include, which is doing our lookup for us to see if we have that user or not. And if it doesn't, then we're going to create a new user. And in either of those cases, we're going to return back to our client script function the sys-ID of the object that was either created or found.
Because the next step is, hey, I recognize you as a user, whether new or existing.
Yeah.
here's your list of questions, and it starts into this iterative trivia process, but it knows probably from a URL parameter who the user is.
Well, that's a reasonable question that Poke asked. Let's try one more thing before we drop back into the video, which is, does submitting a user still work? Does creating a
Man, don't test things. It works. Just don't look.
It's called faith testing.
Seems like a reasonable question. Do we still
add me?
Create?
Or don't, I guess. That's fine.
He's a classy gentleman. I like him.
Oh, yeah. Smart guy, too. Oh.
You
had to test the other case.
What
happened? JavaScript error, line number 18, which is
18 is
get unique value. Oh, if it came back as, hey, I got to create somebody. This only works.
Yeah,
so
that only works if it does get someone.
Right. So let's set that to nada and then do an else on here. It says, if you didn't get it, then otherwise, if you did get it, then we'll do this, which I know could be a ternary operator now that I look at it. Oops. Okay. All right. Anybody gambling today?
I'm gambling. I think it'll work.
Of course it'll work.
David.
I'm not always pessimistic.
David.
I think this one will work.
.com.
Well, that's okay.
Create new user.
New user. Cannot find function create new user. Did we not call it create new user?
I think we just called it
create
create
person.
Oh, yeah.
That happens all the time. I start calling people users. That's a problem with naming your table something crazy. It's like everybody calls them users except when you want to call them people.
So yeah, that's 22.
Line 22 over on your
in the widget. Where's my widget? Okay. Come on, we're going to fix this. We're overtime now.
Yeah, but it's okay.
We're close. Everybody knows what the problem is. You had to get that last test of new user.
That was,
taking a long time to save. There we go.
You should always, check backward compatibility.
It worked yesterday. I only added a few lines of
created users earlier. Then we did all the stuff.
It's fine.
It's fine. It'll work.
It's fine. Push it to prod and see what happens.
Trust me, it'll work. Yay. Did it create a user? I got a sys-ID back. Ends with 619FE. There's David. 619FE is correct.
Yay.
Awesome. That was fun.
All right.
Need some sound effects.
Aha. Went up.
If it hadn't worked, we would have gone with.
Wah, wah, wah. Why does the screen hate me today? I do not understand.
Or another failure is this one. What hates you now? Oh, yeah, we got
just
Andrew's playing Kilroy was here.
Just Zoom is just playing havoc with resolutions today.
Oh, I'm there. Hello.
Oh, whatever. There we are. Sweet. Well, that was awesome. Thank you, Chuck. And thank you for driving.
You're welcome. Hope you feel better soon.
Sorry, I wasn't up to my peak, especially given that I'm not the greatest at Service Portal to begin with.
We just needed your mind today. You were in the zone.
So let's go around the horn. Rate our beers. Our beverages of choice.
Yep.
Way too early for Andrew to have a beer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I liked it. It was 3.5 with the 0.25. What is it? Success factor that we add sometimes. Yeah. So 3.75.
3.75. Nice. And Chuck, your staple. How's your staple?
Four Peaks Brewing Company, Kilt Lifter, Scottish style amber ale. It's a good staple. Like I said, it's I give it a 3.5. That's with the success factor. I don't love it, but it's a good go-to beer that's got more body than your commercial stuff.
So my Endless River, the local brew here in North Carolina, is, it's a 3.5 with the success factor. It's good, stable. Like I could see having several of those in there, but I wouldn't wouldn't chase someone down. It's good enough. It's good enough. Awesome.
I picture you running after somebody who has it in their cart at the grocery store. Give me that beer.
You can't have the last one of those. I need it.
In this case, no, I won't chase that person down.
I will not, especially since I can't hardly move right now. I'm hobbled over like the Pisa, just leaning tower all the way. It's a struggle.
Well, I hope you feel better soon.
Oh, thank you. So thank you, audience. You guys were awesome today. I'm going to go check out to see how I can scan my script box in ServiceNow, because that will be fun. And thank you for the help, Poke, and Jace for sure. Jace also was inducted into our introductory developer MVP group. He's been in the community for a long time
deserved
as well, and been a great community member for 10 years now. I'm pretty sure. Like I remember seeing Jace's videos when I was starting out, and he hadn't been doing them for several years. Like he had a string of videos that ended in like 2011 or something. Like it was a long time
I had
ago.
someone make a comment on a post I made 11 years ago when I was a customer. I don't remember asking the question. I don't remember the answer. And somebody just said, "Hey, were you able to resolve this?" I'm
like, time resolves all issues.
Yeah, upgrade to New York.
Upgrade to New York. Well, thank you so much, Chuck. As always, you're such a pleasure. Thank you, Andrew, for joining us a second week in a row.
No worries.
We will be back again next week for sure. I may have some special guests running the show when I'll be out the following week. We may get some original show hosts back on to come run the show while I'm out for a week, because I'd like to not go with a blank week right now. But we really appreciate everyone joining us today. Visit us over. You can see all three of us at developer.servicenow.com. We're there. We create content there. We contribute to the community that you can get to from there. So reach out to us there or on Slack. We look forward to seeing you folks in person in Knowledge in a few months. We've already started lots of work for that. So I know Chuck has got some interesting things. I'll be building, as I did last year, the competition. So come and try and vie your skills against other developers in a head-to-head set challenge.
Oh, the theme this year is going to be off the wall. If you thought Mission to Mars was fun or the Brew Ops, we're going at it again. This is fun.
And this is going to be fun. So look forward to hearing more about those things coming up in the future. And everybody have a great weekend. Thanks for joining us.